This is a group of Movement Media Alliance, and one special person, Eleanor Goldfield, is a member, and she wrote. It was a group effort, but she wrote a lot of this this notice. And it's a call to protect Palestinian reporters and end media complicity in genocide, a call to all journalists and media workers. And I'm going to read just a little of it. According to a new report from the Cost of War study, Brown University, Israel's genocide has killed at least 232 reporters. It surpasses the combined toll of journalist casualties in the U.S. Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Yugoslav wars, the war in Afghanistan, and the ongoing war in Ukraine. It's more than the combined number. Since October 7th, 2023, Israel has refused to allow foreign journalists access to Gaza. Thanks to the remarkable work of Palestinian journalists on the ground, all of whom Israel has displaced, injured, starved, and surveilled, much of the world has seen Israel's brutality and genocidal violence, despite the attempts by Israel and the West to block and kill the truth. Just as the work of Movement Media Alliance is to collaborate and amplify each other's work of independent grassroots media, our mandate right now must be to stand in solidarity with Palestinian journalists as our colleagues and fellow human beings by wielding our media tools in direct resistance to Israel's campaign of violent erasure. This means using our platforms not to overwrite voices, but to amplify them, not to validate their work, but to demand justice. It means pushing for Palestinian narratives. On March 24th, Israel targeted and murdered Hassam Shabbat as he traveled on a horse cart in Gaza. On the same day, barely an hour earlier, Israel targeted and murdered journalist Mohammed Mansour in his home. As Hassam wrote in a post in June 2024, language is important. Language makes genocide justifiable. A reason why we were still being bombed after 243 days is because of the New York Times and most Western media. They continue to spread misinformation and are willing to jump many hoops instead of stating Israel's committing genocide or that Israel's killing Palestinians daily. The New York Times is complicit in this genocide. The New York Times has the blood of 15,000 Palestinian children on their hands. Obviously, that number was 15,000 way back in June when he wrote that. But Israel has now murdered the journalist who wrote that. As Western movement journalists, we have an obligation and an existential need to decry the dangerous failings of corporate media. We must see the attacks on journalists in Gaza as inextricably linked to the attacks on our press freedoms here in the U.S., as they are unilateral attacks on truth, access, awareness, and humanity. And then it says, we the undersigned. So basically, if you're with an independent outlet or you have a show or you know someone who have a show, they can sign on to this letter. And it is a pretty awesome group of people to be a part of that group. We demand that Western media recognize the fact-checked, investigated, and undeniable evidence that Israel, as backed by the U.S. and colonial powers, is perpetrating genocide against Palestinians, and that the baseline of journalistic integrity requires us to show that truth. As Palestinian journalist Ibrahim said in a press conference outside Nasser Hospital, he said the international community must uphold its responsibility toward Palestinian journalists and impose the maximum penalty on these criminals who target us and our families. As movement media workers in solidarity with our colleagues in Palestine, we must not only aim to elevate journalistic work that exposes injustice and colonial violence, but also use our voices to ensure their safety and the well-being of all oppressed peoples. So yeah, pretty awesome statement. That's at movementmedia.org. I'll put the link in the chat there. Movement-media.org. That's probably important.